No, this one's Native American.
I know, but that's why it's confusing, because it's
okay.
like, well, we're French, so then like Post Falls is also French, but it's not.
Post Falls.
Post Falls. That was like Italian.
So we've done a number of like top neighborhoods, top cities around North Idaho, but one thing that the viewers have been asking for is a deeper dive into some of these particular areas. And so today, Post Falls is our city of choice.
Yes.
So we're going to get into this in a little bit. But we're going to learn everything we can about Post Falls today. And for people who have never visited North Idaho, be prepared. You're going to walk away and you're going to be like, I want to live in Post Falls.
Yes, well, expert.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us this week and always, to our loyal subscribers and viewers. We enjoy seeing you guys every week. Now, we always ask to make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on our weekly videos, be the first to know. Also, engage in the comments. We love hearing from people, their perspectives.
Yeah.
And email
us,
text,
call
phone
us.
calls.
Fax if you want. We might have a fax machine
Carrier
somewhere.
pigeon?
Owls. If you know any owls.
Yes, Hedwig.
Hedwig.
Yes, feel free to reach out and communicate with us. We are in a very interesting market right now, and I think it's really important to have an experienced, seasoned advisor and team that has your back to kind of coach you through all this craziness. And although we're not doing any market updates on this particular episode, you can find market updates elsewhere. We're gonna get into Post Falls, a deep dive into a community here in the Kootenai County, North Idaho region that is kind of the little brother or little sister to Coeur d'Alene, I would say, you know, especially in terms of population and size and area. So if you've been looking or Googling North Idaho or, Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, anything like that, you're bound to come across a city called Post Falls. So Post Falls positions itself as an outdoor recreation haven. It borders Idaho. It's on the border of Idaho and Washington, borders on the border of Idaho and Washington. It's about half of Post Falls is prairie land, kind of flat, open, used to be one of, the premier agricultural area in North Idaho back in the turn of the century. And when I say that, I mean the 20th century, so the 1900s, not 22 years ago. But it's also along the river, and on the south side of the river, a forest. It's blanketed in trees. So it's got these two very distinct kind of geologic environmental features. So Spokane River runs through the south side of Post Falls, the other half wide open prairie, North Idaho's premier, or used to be North Idaho's premier agricultural community. So what we were kind of joking around in the intro is there's this huge park at the kind of base, or I guess in terms of Idaho, the end of the Spokane River. The Spokane River flows from Lake Coeur d'Alene into Washington and eventually out to the Columbia and the Pacific Ocean. So right on the border, there is a massive dam and waterfall. And right in that area is a park called Camelin Park. And it's spelt very uniquely. And Coeur d'Alene is also spelled very uniquely. Lots of apostrophes and like words not pronounced phonetically like they're spelled, and this is one of them. But Camelin Park is connected to what we call the community forest, and it's a 500-acre hiking, walking, mountain biking trails. There are over 20 miles in looped routes throughout this 500-acre park. It's massive. And it sits right on the river, so lots of elevation change, lots of trees.
Yeah, they're definitely not beginner trails, the mountain biking ones.
No,
they're
for sure.
like more of an intermediate or advanced. So if you're like, oh, maybe I'm going to get into mountain biking, start somewhere else, and then you can move up.
Yeah, maybe start on the Centennial Trail.
Yeah, because I mean it's gorgeous, but you know it's that wooded elevation change.
Yes.
It's tight trails. I tried like one time and it was scary. So just wanted to make sure that you guys know that because we don't want to be responsible for any injuries. So liability release. If you're not a good mountain biker, start somewhere else.
Yes. So Camillin Park also is really known for this rock climbing area. It draws a lot of people who are into climbing. There's a 78-acre rock climbing park. It has climbing suitable for all skill levels. This park borders 2 miles of the Spokane River. So in this area, you have along the shoreline of the river, lots of swimming holes, lots of areas where you could put in a kayak or a canoe. It's just a playground for whitewater activity and fishing, anglers, stuff like that. And a handful of boat launches are around the river, not just around the Camillin Park Community Forest area, but there's a handful of boat launches around the river so that you can enjoy that. It's kind of like, compared to the lake, the river's kind of like a thoroughfare, like a street or a highway almost.
Right.
Because you've got boats going up and down the river.
Houses on both sides.
You've got paddleboarders, kayakers, canoers, all sorts of stuff.
Is the river still, I know they were talking about doing like no wake zone through the river. I don't know if they okay. I know they were talking about that, so they did pass that through. Yes. Because I know a lot of the residents were having issues with their docks because of all the boats now are throwing these huge wakes, right? The wake surfing boats. So they were seeing a lot of like dock damage. So they did turn that to a no wake zone, which is nice for your recreation because now you can paddleboard, kayak, in a little bit safer on the river because it's not boats zipping up and down with their wakes.
It makes it a little bit more pedestrian, I guess, So the river is a great recreational area. And then the last thing we want to note, and we've kind of noted a couple of these in another video about golf courses, but there's 3 courses in Post Falls: the Highlands Golf Course, the Prairie Falls Golf Course, and the Links Golf Course. So in terms of recreation, especially during non-winter months, you've got mountain biking, hiking, walking, fishing, whitewater activities, rock climbing, golfing, all sorts of water activities. So Post Falls definitely, I feel like they can make a claim to be an outdoor enthusiast's haven for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So Post Falls has kind of a new up-and-coming downtown area. So like Lindsay kind of said earlier, we've had a lot of growth in Post Falls. So now we're kind of trying to catch up with some things to do besides going to Coeur d'Alene, right?
Like gathering spaces.
Yeah, so we have Sherman here, which is hopping through the summer and now more through the winter as well. But Post Falls was really kind of lacking that. So we're in this now growth period where they're really trying to stay with the growth as far as housing and extracurricular activities, essentially. So this area right off the south side of Spokane Street exit, we've gotten a bunch of new like popular restaurants. Post Falls Brewing, which is right off the Centennial Trail. You can ride your bike up there if you're feeling extra motivated, or you could just show up. But Post Falls Brewing is cool. They've got like a nice little outdoors area in the summertime. The Sawmill Grill is over there, and then Republic Tap House their food is super good. It's kind of in this old like house essentially, but they've transformed it into a little restaurant, and it's super good. Pretty casual, but their food's really good. And then there's kind of this new up and coming urban living area, like condos and and such townhomes. Yeah, that they're developing called Millworks, where the old sawmill used to be. So that's walking distance again to a lot of these restaurants and the park as well. Not I'm gonna say it wrong. Camelin. It's not Camelin Park. Oh my gosh, but the Post Falls Park. So lots of parks in Post Falls.
Yes.
Walking distance to the Post Falls Park. Where
the dam.
The dam, yeah.
Yes, and in the springtime, when all the mountain thaw is happening and the river's really high, they open that dam up to full capacity, and it is
powerful,
spectacular. To see this dam in the springtime.
It's pretty cool.
It's very humbling because it's like, oh, that would kill me.
Literally.
Yes, in a second. No one survives that. It's fascinating. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is cool. It's like humbling to kind of be over and see that. But yeah, other dining, Post Falls, the White House Grill is kind of Mediterranean, garlic. You have to like garlic.
Lots of garlic.
So much garlic, so good.
It's our claim to fame.
Claim to fame. If you don't like garlic, get out of here. But White House Grill, and then they have a sister kind of like a cocktail bar, the Oval Office. So they do like an amazing happy hour, and their appetizers are super good. They're in the middle of remodeling that actually, so they should reopen hopefully soon.
Yeah.
But Embers at the Highlands Golf Course is like wood-fired pizza, originated over in kind of Hauser Lake area. Delicious, so good. So Embers at Highlands, and then Fuki is kind of like a hibachi style Japanese. They do sushi and stuff as well, but their hibachi is pretty cool, and you can like sit and they cook it in front of you, obviously. Kind of a fun little experience. And then if you're looking for brunch, breakfast, the Old European Breakfast House is kind of a staple. For breakfast, they close at 2, so brunch and breakfast and lunch.
Yes, that's where you get it in Post Falls.
What else? Oh, entertainment. Lots of things. Nashville North is out over on State Line. So we actually get pretty bigger name country artists for like playing at a bar that will go out and play there. They do line dancing, but yeah, concert series out there. And then the Spokane Speedway hosts a lot of events as well, concerts, expos, and all that stuff. So Post Falls really is situated in like a cool place because you're kind of in between, Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. So people book, hire talent and stuff because it's like in the middle of
central
these 2 cities
location,
that will come to.
Exactly. Yeah. So kind of getting into like outside of activities and dining and entertainment, some of the demographics of Post Falls. Sammy, tell us about the demographics.
Let's get into some numbers. We love it. So population wise, we're sitting at about 40,000 people, which is like a big growth. Like,
yes,
I don't know what
and
it was.
And that's in city limits, actually.
Yeah.
So there's probably another, especially like south of the river, there's probably another 10,000+ people that call Post Falls the larger metro area, Post Falls home. Yeah.
Second largest city in North Idaho. So yeah, probably seen the biggest growth in the last, 5 years, because again, where it's located, it's right in between Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, kind of one of those bedroom communities where you commute essentially maybe to your job in, the Spokane Valley or, out to Coeur d'Alene. And again, just kind of how it's set up, like it's a prairie, so there's lots of room to grow and to develop. So for those reasons, we've seen Post Falls really just kind of like explode, and they really don't think that it's going to stop anytime soon. They're just building.
There's still a lot of land.
Yeah, there's still a lot to grow into, I guess you could say.
For sure.
Post Falls averages about 26 inches of rainfall and 60 inches of snow per year. So precipitation, if you don't like the snow, you guys already know, we get it here.
Yeah.
Not as much, I don't think, in Post Falls as we do in Coeur d'Alene.
Yes. Or north towards like Sand Point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they still see it.
And I would like to point out for people that don't live here that this isn't like 60 inches of accumulated snow that sticks around all year. Like,
it's for the season.
Yes, it's the season, and what we see is kind of an ebb and a flow, like a thaw and then more snow, and then a thaw and more snow. So just as a note, to people who might be wary of snow.
Well, and even in like the Boise area, they get snow and like they don't know what to do with it in their city. Like we have the infrastructure, we know that it's going to snow here, so the snowplows are out before you're up. You know, we're prepared for it essentially. So it's not like we get a little bit of a snowfall and then like everything shuts down and people lose their minds. Like we're ready for it. So we're not trying to like scare you away, but it does snow here. It gets a little chilly.
Yeah.
But Post Falls sees 200 days of sun.
That's
is exciting. We love the sun, so there's that.
Yes.
20 education options, K through 12, school-wise, between public schools, charter schools. There's some higher education, like tech kind of schools as well.
Trade schools.
Yeah. So you got 20 options between that, which is quite a bit for.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised to see it was that high.
Yeah.
There's just, those extra little places that you don't really know about.
Yeah.
And then as far as industry-wise, primary industry and employment is electronics, the lumber and manufacturing, healthcare, and then service and retail. So Walmart is actually the highest employer of Post Falls. There's a big old Walmart out there. So
there's two in Post Falls.
Technically.
The one on the border, which is huge, and then the one further into Post Falls. But I think that's why they're probably the largest.
Because there's two. I always forget that the one on State Line is like technically Post Falls.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Liberty Lake almost, but still technically Post Falls. So we got two out there.
So in terms of where to live in Post Falls, one of the most scenic areas to live is definitely down in and along the river. There are a number of neighborhoods down there. These are obviously the riverfront homes definitely qualify more luxury. They're gonna be more expensive just being waterfront. But on the north side of the river, there are a number of kind of developments, and we'll kind of talk about those in a second. On the south side of the river, there is, like I said, this whole area is blanketed in trees. This is like the forested area. And so on the south side of the river, you're gonna see like acreage parcels. You're gonna see more privacy and space between the neighbors. It's kind of one of those areas, they don't have the sewer and the water out there, so you've got wells and septic systems, but you've got space.
Right.
Post Falls mainly attracts families and retirees because it also hits a different price point. It's traditionally more affordable than a Coeur d'Alene zip code or even some Hayden zip codes. So in terms of affordability, that's also contributed to the spike in people moving to Post Falls. And families looking for newer homes or retirees looking for newer homes.
Right.
The concentration of new construction and apartments in Kootenai County is the highest in Post Falls. Absolutely. Again, because of the space and the levelness of the ground. It just makes it so much easier to develop an entire neighborhood. So Post Falls also has, some of these neighborhoods that we kind of mentioned along the river, Riverside Harbor really stands out. That is probably like a 90s-ish neighborhood. They've got like a riverfront portion, and then they've got kind of some stuff that's just north of the river, but they've got like a community park on the river that residents can access with a beach. Yeah, exactly. Pine Villa is another neighborhood that's in that kind of wooded area north of the river there. It's a little bit older, like 70s, 80s, but there's Ponderosa Elementary is right in the middle of all of that. The Highlands Golf Course area is another beautiful neighborhood.
Super pretty.
That is probably a 90s-ish neighborhood, kind of similar age as Riverside Harbor, but it's up kind of on a plateau. It surrounds the Highlands Golf Course. There's some big, beautiful estate homes in there. It's just got a neighborhood with great curb appeal. And the numbered streets are kind of the areas where, okay, so north of I-90, we've got like 12th Avenue all the way up to 23rd Avenue. And from like Chase all the way over to like Greens Ferry-ish. That's the oldest, these are the oldest neighborhoods in Post Falls. You've got your houses from the 40s and the 50s, no CC&Rs, no HOAs, stuff like that. But those are kind of the main core, like existing established neighborhoods in Post Falls. And Post Falls, again, like we've mentioned here, has a number of new construction development neighborhoods where, you're seeing hundreds of homes. You've got, the elementary school mixed in there. You've probably got some parks, easy access to commercial. Foxtail is an Arcatera neighborhood. Tullamore, was a Copper Basin neighborhood and mainly now built out by Hayden Homes. We've got Fieldstone, that is a Viking Homes neighborhood. And then Montrose, that is a Greenstone neighborhood. And all of these are heavy on new construction. Again, the planned development with phases and CC&Rs, HOAs, elementary schools, parks, walking trails, etc. So if that's what you're looking for, those are our recommendations. So this was our deep dive into Post Falls, and I know when we were putting this together, we found a couple of really interesting points, and we've lived here for 15 plus, years. Yeah. And so it was kind of fun to kind of look at Post Falls from not just a local perspective, but maybe, someone who's seeking information. We want to make sure we share the best of Post Falls. Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Yeah. We've got more deep dives into the cities and the neighborhoods around North Idaho, so stay tuned for that. And to make sure that you're on top of it, don't forget to subscribe and like our videos, comment and engage if you've got anything that you know about Post Falls that we didn't cover. Share it with the viewers. We enjoy you guys following us and reaching out and watching us each week. We'll be back next week with a whole new video.
Bye.